Kéramos, by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Turn, turn, my wheel. Turn round and round without a pause, without a sound, so spins the flying world away. This clay, well mixed with marl and sand, follows the motion of my hand, for some must follow, and some command, though all are made of clay. Thus sang the potter at his task beneath the blossoming hawthorn tree, while o'er his features, like a mask, the quilted sunshine and leaf shade moved, as the boughs above him swayed, and clothed him, till he seemed to be a figure woven in tapestry, so sumptuously was he arrayed in that magnificent attire of sable tissue flaked with fire. Like a magician he appeared, a conjurer without book or beard, and while he plied his magic art, for it was magical to me, I stood in silence and apart, and wondered more and more to see that shapeless, lifeless mass of clay rise up to meet the master's hand, and now contract and now expand, and even his slightest touch obey, while ever in a thoughtful mood he sang his ditty, and at times whistled a tune between the rhymes, as a melodious interlude. Turn, turn, my wheel. All things must change to something new, to something strange, nothing that is can pause or stay, the moon will wax, the moon will wane, the mist and cloud will turn to rain, the rain to mist and cloud again, tomorrow be today. Thus still the potter sang, and still, by some unconscious act of will, the melody and even the words were intermingled with my thought, as bits of colored thread are caught and woven into nests of birds. And thus to regions far remote, beyond the ocean's vast expanse, this wizard in the motley coat transported me on wings of song, and by the northern shores of France bore me with restless speed along. What land is this that seems to be a mingling of the land and sea? This land of sluices, dikes, and dunes? This water net, that tessellates the landscape? This unending maze of gardens, through whose latticed gates the imprisoned pinks and tulips gaze, where in long summer afternoons the sunshine, softened by the haze, comes streaming down as through a screen, where over fields and pastures green the painted ships float high in air, and over all and everywhere the sails of windmills sink and soar like wings of seagulls on the shore? What land is this? Yon pretty town is Delft, with all its wares displayed, the pride, the marketplace, the crown and center of the potter's trade. See! Every house and room is bright with glimmers of reflected light from plates that on the dresser shine, flagons to foam with Flemish beer, or sparkle with the Rhenish wine, and pilgrim flasks with fleur-de-lis, and ships upon a rolling sea, and tankards pewter-topped, and queer with comic mask and musketeer. Each hospitable chimney smiles a welcome from its painted tiles, the parlor walls, the chamber floors, the stairways and the corridors, the borders of the garden walks, are beautiful with fadeless flowers, that never droop in winds or showers, and never wither on their stalks. Turn, turn, my wheel. All life is brief, what now is bud will soon be leaf, what now is leaf will soon decay, the wind blows east, the wind blows west, the blue eggs in the robin's nest will soon have wings and beak and breast, and flutter and fly away. Now southward through the air I glide, the song my only pursuivant, and see across the landscape wide the blue Charente, upon whose tide the belfries and the spires of Sant ripple and rock from side to side, as, when an earthquake rends its walls, a crumbling city reels and falls. Who is it in the suburbs here, this potter, working with such cheer, in this mean house, this mean attire, his manly features bronzed with fire, whose figure lines and rustic wares scarce find him bread from day to day? This madman, as the people say, who breaks his tables and his chairs to feed his furnace fires, nor cares who goes unfed if they are fed, nor who may live if they are dead? This alchemist with hollow cheeks and sunken, searching eyes, who seeks, by mingled earths and ores combined with potency of fire, to find some new enamel, hard and bright, his dream, his passion, his delight? O Polyce! Within thy breast burned the hot fever of unrest, thine was the prophet's vision, thine the exaltation, the divine insanity of noble minds, that never falters nor abates, but labors and endures and waits, till all that it foresees it finds, or what it cannot find creates. Turn, turn, my wheel. This earthen jar a touch can make, a touch can mar, and shall it to the potter say, What makest thou? Thou hast no hand? As men who think to understand a world by their Creator planned, who wiser is than they? Still guided by the dreamy song, as in a trance I float along above the Pyrenean chain, above the fields and farms of Spain, above the bright Majorcan isle, that lends its softened name to art, a spot, a dot upon the chart, whose little towns, red-roofed with tile, are ruby-lustered with the light of blazing furnaces by night, and crowned by day with wreaths of smoke. Then eastward, wafted in my flight on my enchanter's magic cloak, I sail across the Tyrrhene Sea into the land of Italy, and o'er the windy Apennines, mantled and musical with pines. The palaces, the princely halls, the doors of houses and the walls of churches and of belfry towers, cloister and castle, street and mart, are garlanded and gay with flowers that blossom in the fields of art. Here Gubbio's workshops gleam and glow with brilliant, iridescent dyes, the dazzling whiteness of the snow, the cobalt blue of summer skies, and vase, and scutcheon, cup and plate, in perfect finish emulate Faenza, Florence, Pesaro. Forth from Urbino's gate there came a youth with the angelic name of Raphael, in form and face himself angelic, and divine in arts of color and design. From him Francesco Zanto caught something of his transcendent grace, and into fictile fabrics wrought suggestions of the master's thought. Nor less Maestro Giorgio shines with madre pearl and golden lines of arabesques, and interweaves his birds and fruits and flowers and leaves about some landscape, shaded brown, with olive tints on rock and town. Behold this cup within whose bowl, upon a ground of deepest blue with yellow lustered stars o'erlaid, colors of every tint and hue mingle in one harmonious whole. With large blue eyes and steadfast gaze, her yellow hair in net and braid, necklace and earrings all ablaze with golden luster o'er the glaze, a woman's portrait, on the scroll, Cana, the beautiful. A name forgotten save for such brief fame as this memorial can bestow, a gift some lover long ago gave with his heart to this fair dame. A nobler title to renown is thine, O pleasant Tuscan town, seated beside the Arno stream, for Luca della Robbia there created forms so wondrous fair, they made thy sovereignty supreme. These choristers with lips of stone, whose music is not heard, but seen, still chant, as from their organ screen, their Maker's praise, nor these alone, but the more fragile forms of clay, hardly less beautiful than they. These saints and angels that adorn the walls of hospitals, and tell the story of good deeds so well that poverty seems less forlorn, and life more like a holiday. Here in this old neglected church, that long eludes the traveler's search, lies the dead bishop on his tomb, earth upon earth he slumbering lies, lifelike and deathlike in the gloom, garlands of fruit and flowers in bloom and foliage deck his resting place, a shadow in the sightless eyes, a pallor on the patient face, made perfect by the furnace heat, all earthly passions and desires burnt out by purgatorial fires, seeming to say, our years are fleet, and to the weary death is sweet. But the most wonderful of all the ornaments on tomb or wall that grace the fair Ausonian shores are those the faithful earth restores, near some Apulian town concealed, in vineyard or in harvest field, vases and urns and bas-reliefs, memorials of forgotten griefs, or records of heroic deeds of demigods and mighty chiefs, figures that almost move and speak, and, buried amid mold and weeds, still in their attitudes attest the presence of the graceful Greek, Achilles in his armor dressed, Alcides with the Cretan bull, Aphrodite with her boy, or lovely Helena of Troy, still living and still beautiful. Turn, turn, my wheel. 'Tis nature's plan the child should grow into the man grow wrinkled, old, and gray, in youth the heart exalts and sings, the pulses leap, the feet have wings, in age the cricket chirps, and brings the harvest home of day. And now the winds that southward blow, and cool the hot Sicilian isle, bear me away. I see below the long line of the Libyan Nile, flooding and feeding the parched lands with annual ebb and overflow, a fallen palm whose branches lie beneath the Abyssinian sky, whose roots are in Egyptian sands. On either bank huge water wheels, belted with jars and dripping weeds, send forth their melancholy moans, as if, in their grey mantles hid, dead anchorites of the Thebaid knelt on the shore and told their beads, beating their breasts with loud appeals and penitential tears and groans. This city, walled and thickly set with glittering mosque and minaret, is Cairo, in whose gay bazaars the dreaming traveler first inhales the perfume of Arabian gales, and sees the fabulous earthen jars, huge as were those wherein the maid Morgiana found the 40 thieves concealed in midnight ambuscade, and seeing, more than half believes the fascinating tales that run through all the 1,000 Nights and One, told by the fair Scheherazade. More strange and wonderful than these are the Egyptian deities, Ammon, and Emeth, and the grand Osiris, holding in his hand the lotus, Isis, crowned and veiled, the sacred ibis, and the Sphinx, bracelets with blue enameled links, the scarab and emerald mailed, or spreading wide his funeral wings, lamps that perchance their night watch kept or Cleopatra while she slept, all plundered from the tombs of kings. Turn, turn, my wheel. The human race, of every tongue, of every place, Caucasian, Coptic, or Malay, all that inhabit this great earth, whatever be their rank or worth, are kindred and allied by birth, and made of the same clay. Or desert sands, or gulf and bay, or Ganges and or Himalay, bird-like I fly, and flying sing, to flowery kingdoms of Cathay, and bird-like poise on balanced wing above the town of King Te Ching, a burning town, or seeming so, 3,000 furnaces that glow incessantly, and fill the air with smoke uprising, gyre on gyre, and painted by the lurid glare, of jets and flashes of red fire. As leaves that in the autumn fall, spotted and veined with various hues, are swept along the avenues, and lie in heaps by hedge and wall, so from this grove of chimneys whirl to all the markets of the world, these porcelain leaves are wafted on, light yellow leaves with spots and stains of violet and of crimson dye, or tender azure of a sky just washed by gentle April rains, and beautiful with celadon. Nor less the coarser household wares, the willow pattern, that we knew in childhood, with its bridge of blue leading to unknown thoroughfares, the solitary man who stares at the white river flowing through its arches, the fantastic trees and wild perspective of the view, and intermingled among these the tiles that in our nurseries filled us with wonder and delight, or haunted us in dreams at night. And yonder by Nankin, behold, the tower of porcelain, strange and old, uplifting to the astonished skies its ninefold painted balconies, with balustrades of twining leaves, and roofs of tile, beneath whose eaves hang porcelain bells that all the time ring with a soft, melodious chime, while the whole fabric is ablaze with varied tints, all fused in one great mass of color, like a maze of flowers illumined by the sun. Turn, turn, my wheel. What is begun at daybreak must at dark be done, tomorrow will be another day, tomorrow the hot furnace flame will search the heart and try the frame, and stamp with honor or with shame these vessels made of clay. Cradled and rocked in eastern seas the islands of the Japanese beneath me lie, o'er lake and plain the stork, the heron, and the crane through the clear realms of azure drift, and on the hillside I can see the villages of Amari, whose thronged and flaming workshops lift their twisted columns of smoke on high, cloud cloisters that in ruins lie, with sunshine streaming through each rift, and broken arches of blue sky. All the bright flowers that fill the land, ripple of waves on rock or sand, the snow on Fusiyama's cone. The midnight heaven so thickly sown with constellations of bright stars, the leaves that rustle, the reeds that make a whisper by each stream and lake, the saffron dawn, the sunset red, are painted on these lovely jars. Again the skylark sings, again the stork, the heron, and the crane float through the azure overhead, the counterfeit and counterpart of nature reproduced in art. Art is the child of nature, yes, her darling child, in whom we trace the features of the mother's face, her aspect and her attitude, all her majestic loveliness chastened and softened and subdued into a more attractive grace, and with a human sense imbued. He is the greatest artist, then, whether of pencil or of pen, who follows nature. Never man, as artist or as artisan, pursuing his own fantasies, can touch the human heart, or please, or satisfy our nobler needs, as he who sets his willing feet, in nature's footprints, light and fleet, and follows fearless where she leads. Thus mused I on that morn in May, wrapped in my visions like the seer, whose eyes behold not what is near, but only what is far away, when, suddenly sounding peal on peal, the church bell from the neighboring town proclaimed the welcome hour of noon. The potter heard, and stopped his wheel, his apron on the grass threw down, whistled his quiet little tune, not over loud nor over long, and ended thus his simple song: Stop, stop, my wheel. Too soon the noon will be the afternoon, too soon today be yesterday. Behind us in our path we cast the broken potsherds of the past, and all are ground to dust at last, and trodden into clay.